Joe Pasillo. On Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe Pasillo and Joe Resinello. And we are going into the breach, brothers and sisters. Thank you again for joining us on the Crusade Channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. And if you want to get in the chat room, you go to crusadechannel.com/chat. And remember that we are now doing a subscription drive. We're trying to get people and emphasize to people that they want to subscribe to the Crusade Channel. You go on crusadechannel.com, you hit listen free, and you get all the content of the Crusade Channel. And we firmly believe that at the end of it all, you're going to love it so much that you're going to want to subscribe. So we want to emphasize that to you. Remember, Joe Resinello and I, are on Veritas Catholic Network up in Connecticut, Northern Long Island, and parts of Westchester County. So we have our Sunday afternoon 5 o'clock interview show. Great interview up there that we did this weekend with Albino Aragno from the Chanocolo community, doing wonderful work with people who suffer from addictions, alcohol, drugs, and things like that. The Chanocolo community is doing God's work. It is a great example of how Catholics are supposed to reach out a hand of love and compassion to others to help them get back on their feet. So we emphasize to you to go to the Veritas Catholic Network website, download their mobile app. You can not only listen to the Frontline with Joe and Joe, you could listen to all the content from Veritas. Remember, we are raising a few bucks. Okay, it's on the screen. Patreon.com, the Frontline with Joe and Joe. If you want to throw a few dollars in there and help us out so we can keep going, we really appreciate all your prayers. Okay, that goes without saying. Joe Resinello, I'm looking for stories, right? I'm looking for stories. I'm saying to myself, what are Joe and I going to talk about? And talk is the key word there, okay? Talk, speech, okay? And the freedom that we have to say what's on our mind, the freedom that we have to associate with other people, the freedom that we have to worship God. Okay, that's our freedom. Those are our rights. Do you know that in America right now, there are people, a lot of them, particularly young people, who are brainwashed to the point where they think that idea is dangerous? And that's a conversation we're going to start out with tonight, okay? Because we think it's a good one to have, because let's face it, without free speech, we are finished. If we cannot open our mouths, and by the way, Joe Resinello, I would say to everyone out there who's fighting a good fight against big tech and regime media and all of it, God bless you all. Let's keep fighting. They cannot silence us. We have the right to say whatever it is we want. That's what, the Supreme Court says that, as long as I'm not inciting violence. Okay, and we're going to get into that too. Obama, I don't know. Do you think Obama's been watching the Frontline with Joe and Joe Resinello?
He should be, but he's probably not.
He's probably not. He should be. All right. But Obama's saying what Joe and I have been saying for the last year. And in fairness, many people have been saying Joe Biden is Obama's third term. Joe Biden's running nothing.
Obama even said it.
He even said it. And we're going to break that down for you. Do you know that being woke? I love this article I came across from William Kilpatrick in Crisis Magazine. Okay. Wokeism is hurting us. I'm talking about national security, Joe Resinello. National security, okay? So we're going to talk about that. Andy Nago is a homosexual. If Joe and I hit Andy Nago, okay, and punched him in the face the way Antifa did, we would get executed.
Happened 2 times.
Happened
Just
2
happened
times
again.
now. 2 times this poor kid.
They ran him out of the country. He was living in London. He was in exile.
And then he comes back, and what happens?
He's
they beat the
again.
crap out of him again. And wait till you hear the place he was hiding in, all right, what their reaction was, which is disgusting, okay? We're going to talk about that. Chamber of Commerce, Joe Resinello, Chamber of Commerce, they're annoying beyond belief. If you want to talk about the epitome of rhino republicanism and pseudo-conservatism, it's the Chamber of Commerce. And we're going to get into that, too. Planned Parenthood doesn't really care if their donors get noticed, Joe. You want to know why? Because they get hundreds of millions of dollars from the federal government. We're going to talk about that too, because that's a case that's going on right now. And we got a whole, we probably won't get to everything, but listen, one story's juicier than the next. So let's get started. Let's talk about free speech.
Before we get into free speech, we said our prayer before we got on tonight, so we'll just say, Our Lady of Victory, pray for us. So let's do it. Free speech. Stella Morabato from the Federalist reports on this one. This is what she had to say. The slogan, free speech is hate speech, has gained a lot of traction on college campuses since the 1990s. People are easily canceled today for any misplaced word. More than 5 years ago now, this is the startling number that Joe alluded to in the beginning.
Joe, this blew me away.
It's actually unbelievable. She said more than 5 years ago now, nearly 40% of young adults polled by Pew Research said they considered free speech dangerous.
Now, remember, that's not Joe and Joe cold calling about 1,000 people, young people, asking them what they think about free speech. That's Pew Research doing that. Joe, keep going. I mean, this is something that we got to talk about.
Clearly, these young adults, they don't have a clue. Let's break it down a little bit. First, from Stella in the Federalist, then we'll give our little commentary.
Absolutely.
Basically, what she said was, we rarely discuss the deeper purpose of the First Amendment, which is to preserve our rights to build families, our right to make friends without state interference, and even the right to think our own thoughts.
Isn't that it in a nutshell?
I mean, she's summing it up perfectly. She basically goes on and to say, in short, the First Amendment serves as a shield against social isolation. You are being socially isolated whenever the mass state or big tech regulates your speech so that you can't express an opinion without fear of losing your livelihood.
Now, we got a couple of different things going on here. Let's break it down, Joe. All right. Let's break it down. Let's talk about what she means about building relationships, okay? When you start a relationship with somebody, what's the first thing you do? You speak to them. And what does that do? Your speech conveys thoughts, your thoughts to another person, and then they speak back to you. And then in the course of a conversation, you get a feel for that person, okay? Whether it's a friend, whether it's someone of the opposite sex, okay? Whatever the case might be, that's how you build relationships, okay? Now, think about it. A relationship will either thrive or not based on your ideas. Listen, I don't want to associate with everybody. I love everybody. Okay, I talk to a lot of people, but that doesn't mean I go to cocktail parties with people who voted for Barack Obama, even though I have. I've gone into those lions' dens before, Joe Resinello. But without think of it this way. I meet somebody, okay? And I start talking to that person. If I can only say what the government tells me to say, and I can't, and there's compelled speech and there's prohibited speech, how do I possibly build a relationship with that person, number one? And number two, Joe, then the state's going to say, if they don't like what the two of us are saying, that we can't associate with one another. Do you see how they kill by doing this, Joe? They kill two of our rights that are in the First Amendment, free speech and freedom of association. And let's not even talk about religion.
Well, I mean, Joe and I were talking about this before the show, and I mean, to get a number of 40% of young adults, and again, Pew Research is a fairly respectable, polling organization. Yeah. I'm not saying it's perfect. Listen, I don't know everything about them. I'm not going to pretend to, but it's been around. Let's just put it that way. It's been around. And to throw a number like 40% of young adults feel that free speech is dangerous, to be honest with you, they just don't know how dangerous of a statement that is.
Mhm.
And what we were saying basically before the show is politics flips sometimes. It goes to extremes. It can go from one extreme to the next. This could easily flip. Think about what propelled this wokeism. It was an event that took place in Minneapolis, St. Paul. It was a random event. Also, another random event that propelled the Democratic Party into power. COVID. It's a fact. If there was no COVID and no Minneapolis, St. Paul incident last summer, Donald Trump is the president. That's undisputable.
Right.
I mean, forget it. He's the president.
Regardless of what you think of the election itself, okay, those things did hurt Trump. There's no question that those things
It's a fact.
hurt Trump.
So, like, okay, so what I'm saying is these were like random events. Don't like not think that a random event can happen that can flip this again. I'll give you a for instance, and please don't, misunderstand me. I'm clearly not wishing this because I'm an American and I don't want people to get hurt, any people for that matter. Say, for instance, and I said this actually a while ago, say, for instance, there's a terrorist attack in New York City. It's very clear that de Blasio has lightened up on the police force. New York City's police force was like a small army. Say, for instance, it was something horrendous to the level of what happened at 9/11. The politics flip in a second.
Of course.
If people don't feel safe in America, say it's horrendous. Like, we're not talking about like one bomb. It's something like unbelievable. It flips. Do you want us to come after you?
Well, that's the question.
See, this is what they just don't get it.
But you're right. You're right, Joe Resinello. I'm not disagreeing with you. They don't get that part of it. But the thing is, what they'll say is, yeah, but we're only going after hate speech. You can't come after us because we're just preaching love. Like, no, I'm not. I know how stupid that sounds.
Actually, I'm preaching love, Jesus Christ
right.
love.
Well, that's what we do, okay? But love and truth are inseparable. You don't have one without the other. You can't have truth without love, and you can't have love without truth. And the old saying goes, Joe Resinello, the truth hurts, okay? It hurts when we hear it. It hurts when other people hear it. My point is, that's what their argument will be. You can't. I'll claim my First Amendment rights when that time comes, and I'll be protected because I don't preach hate speech. I'm not against a woman's right to choose. I'm not against gay marriage, blah, blah, blah. I'm for progressive taxation and taxing the crap out of the rich, blah, blah, blah. They swear that they'll be protected because they swear, Joe Resinello, in this delusional world, this bizarro world that they live in, okay? They swear they'll be protected because really they think that what they say is absolutely protected, and what we say is not, because they say what we say is hate speech. That's this hate speech idea, Joe Resinello, has been going around for a couple decades now. If something needs to be defeated in this country, amongst other things, okay, hate speech needs to be destroyed. The whole concept of that in law, Joe, because like you're saying, what if it flips? Let me give you an example.
It could flip.
Let me give you an example, Joe, and I love your comments on this, okay? Netflix let itself be a platform for a production company that produced a movie that portrayed Jesus Christ as a homosexual. Are you offended by that? Because I am.
Big time.
Okay. Should I then have... Now, I'm offended. I think that that's hate speech, okay? I think that the producers of that movie were deliberately hating on Christians, okay? That's my perception. Whatever they say, that's my perception. Should I then have the government... Should I have people that agree with us religiously, politically, and other ways? Should I have them go after those movie producers and say, you cannot do that? Should I? I don't subscribe to Netflix anymore because of that. But my point is, should I then sick the government on them, Joe Resinello? I'm curious. What do you think?
Well, G.K. Chesterton, who was a Catholic lay theologian, this is what he had to say about it. And I think that'll like open up my comments. He said, there is a thought that stops thought. And that is the only thought that ought to be stopped. Some things, like Joe just said, are done in poor taste and shouldn't be done, frankly, out of respect for people.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, when the government, because what you have now and what we're describing in that instance is you have basically thought police.
Right.
They're basically deciding, listen, even God gives you free will. God does not force himself on you. Why? Because love is enforced. You can't force someone to love you. He proposes. He does not impose. And that's God, the highest authority of all. So the government should not be the thought police. Now, there are limits, like you can't scream fire in a movie theater, and that's their argument. But here's the deal. We're not screaming fire in a movie theater. Frankly, I have every right to my beliefs, and I think and speak like a Catholic.
Right.
Actually, this is not some isolated cult that's basically, you know, just was created in some basement in Denver, Colorado, while we were, what's it called, dancing around the fire and banging bongo drums. I mean, it's 2,000 years. There are probably a billion. Gosh, there's probably 2 billion Christians in the world.
Right.
You know, maybe a billion Catholics in the world. So, I mean, gosh, I have every right to speak and think and communicate as a Catholic. And then when the government starts putting, you know, sanctions on you, or frankly, what's happening to this article that we were talking about from the Federalist, I mean, they're not going to hire you. If you make certain comments, if you have certain beliefs, you can't go. I'll be honest with you. Whether you work at McDonald's, making French fries, work at Goldman Sachs, if you say in those places, both places, pretty extreme, right? You say, I don't believe in same-sex marriage. I believe in traditional marriage.
You're out.
You're out.
You're out.
You're out.
And you know what the best part too? This is what I love about this article from Stella Morabito, is that she quotes Chesterton. Now, why do I bring that up? Why is that important? Because Chesterton is a superior mind, of course, a superior intellect, of course. He's Catholic. Now, what do I mean by that? Before all you non-Catholics out there get bent, what do I mean by that? Joe and I we have PhDs in common sense, and we're pretty well versed in our faith. We know a lot. We know a little bit about the faith. Okay. Joe's read the catechism at least a couple times. We know a little bit about church history. We learned a lot from some of our interviews that we've done. Okay. With people like Dr. Ed Mazza and others. Okay. My point is this: we're Catholic. We don't want to stifle your speech. Our attitude is bring it on. Bring it on. See, we're not punks like this 40% of these youth out there who think that free speech is dangerous. No, you got something. You're an atheist. We're Catholic. Bring it on. Okay. You believe in evolution. You think that human beings evolved from apes. Okay. Bring it on. Okay. You think that boys could be girls and girls could be boys. Bring it on. Bring it on. We don't care. I'm not going to tell the government to go out there, Joe Russell, go sick those atheists, go get those atheists and shut them. No. We're Catholic. We take on all comers. You got a problem with that? That means you have a problem with your own position. You don't have a problem with us.
I was just going to say that.
Go ahead, Joe.
That's what I think it is.
Amen, brother.
I mean, I don't think they could defend their position. I'll be truthfully, talk abortion. They throw science around. There is no science behind your position on abortion. It's actually now, it's very obvious based upon the science that it's a child. Tell me that there's science behind transitioning an 8-year-old boy into a girl. Even if you do through chemicals or through an operation, it doesn't change the DNA, which is established before the child even comes out of his or her mother. So this is science. There is no argument.
Right.
There is no argument. You're making it up.
Yeah, Joe, you're absolutely right. Because again, why are we talking about free speech? Because in an open society, we're all told all the time we're in an open society. Well, we're not in an open society. If we were, like I said, the Catholic worldview crushes everybody out there on all positions. I don't care if it's the economy. I don't care if it's abortion. I don't care if it's marriage. I don't care what it is. I will put up any Catholic intellectual on any of these topics against any of the others, anybody from the other side, and we'll say, bring it on. Again, I'm going to go back to it because we are not punks, okay? But the mainstream media, academia, The reason why they want to shut us down is because they don't want to have debate. I've said this before on the Crusade Channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com. I've said this before. At least in England, they still have Oxford debates. They still have Oxford Union debates where Jordan Peterson, or I've seen Alan West, okay, and people who are unpalatable, Milo Yiannopoulos, okay, all these people, they're not afraid to debate. I've watched Jacob Rees-Mogg, who's Catholic, by the way. He's one of the MPs in England, right? Arguing with the socialists, okay, and having a debate. At least they do it. We have mainstream media.
We have Jake Tapper.
All right, we have Jake Tapper and Brian Stelter and they swear because they're kids, they're children. Jake Tapper's a child. Brian Stelter's a child. Okay, they swear that yes, what Joe and I are doing right now is dangerous. They'll tell you that what we're saying is inciting violence. They'll try to convince you of that. In the meantime, we're a couple of jamokes from New Jersey talking through a microphone. Okay, out there to the people on the Crusade Channel, always on air and always online, okay, and other places. They'll tell you that we're a danger to the Republic. No, when you seek to tear down the First Amendment,
that's a danger.
That's the dangerous part. And I'll tell you again, and Joe and I will lay it down right now. You want a debate? We'll have a debate. But you're not man or woman enough. You're cowards. And that's why they're trying to shut down the First Amendment, Joe Resinello. And that's the truth. All right. So we're at the front line with Joe and Joe on the Crusade Channel, always on air, always online at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. We're going to take a quick break. This is going to be a very animated conversation tonight. So whatever you have to do out there, remember, follow Joe and I on Facebook, YouTube, all of our social media. Our producer up in Canada's got us going across 25 different platforms. If you like what we're doing, the only thing we ask you is try to help us out with a little click here or click there. And if you want to drop in a couple bucks, patreon.com/the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Stick around. We got a lot more for you. Welcome back, everyone, to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo and Joe Resinello. And Joe Resinello, after one segment, we're already in the breach. We're way in the breach. We're ducking under bullets flying over our head because, Joe, free speech, we have to emphasize to people. It is not some sort of a luxury that's doled out by the government that one day you could say one thing, one day you could say another. I think that's where they're misguided, a lot of these youth, is they think that, and I've heard this out of people's mouths. They say, well, you think rights come from God. You know, I was like, well, yeah. The Constitution says nature and nature's God. Now, obviously, they weren't referring to, let's say, the way we view the world through the Catholic lens, but nonetheless, they recognize nature and nature's God. That's where I got my rights from. And I used to work with this hardcore leftist. He would tell me flat out, you're crazy, you're delusional, rights come from the government, and the government could take away those rights. I really believed it. Really believed it.
All right.
Who's dangerous, Joe? Me or him? Joe and I or him?
Oh my good Lord. It's absurd.
So it really is absurd. But aside from being absurd, and I don't, Joe Resinello, I do not like using the word dangerous because the left uses it all the time. In fact, they overuse it. But I think in this conversation, you might agree, it's appropriate to use that word.
Oh my gosh.
These kids.
It's dangerous because we could come after you.
Right.
You see, that's the whole idea. There should never be that type of reciprocity. Ever. We could come after you. There could be an event that could turn this on its heels, just like COVID came out of nowhere, just like we were talking about, that incident in Minneapolis came out of nowhere. That could happen. And if it does, would you want that? Would you want that? Frankly, I'll be truthful with you. I wouldn't stand for it. I would speak out against it.
Listen.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm not for canceling anybody. You know what I'm for? Converting you.
That's right.
That's what I'm for. I'm not for canceling. I'm for converting.
But how? Now, Joe, you hit on a big thing. Okay, I thought we were going to move on, but you hit on a big thing. How people want to convert other people all the time to their worldview. And how do you do that? Through speech. You make an argument, right? Does it make sense? Okay.
Sure.
Make an argument. All right. The Dominicans, Joe and I like to pray. When we pray before the show, we like to pray to St. Dominic because the Dominicans actually converted thousands and thousands of people in Spain through the force of argument. They were not forced conversions. You can't force somebody to convert, but they would make the argument. Jews, Muslims in Spain, not fake conversions either, real conversions. How do you convert somebody to your point of view? How does somebody who's a leftist, Joe Resinello, convert me to their point of view? And one of the things that's central to their point of view is that they could shut down free speech. It's illogical. Does it make any sense? Something that needs to be fought against, Joe.
Oh, it's also, it's not American. I mean, let's get right to the bottom line of it. I mean, there's basic things that define America, one of which is free speech. It's one of the basic tenets of this country. And frankly, like I said, you have every right to say what you want. And I should have every right to say what I want.
Right.
And there should be no ramifications.
And you cannot redefine speech that does not incite violence into speech that does incite violence because it's speech that you don't like.
Exactly. Who are you to do it? You see, the people that are doing it are just the elites because they control the media, they control the corporations, and they can. And frankly, the government is allowing them to get away with it. And I'll tell you another thing. Let's just talk about how this could flip again. Say Ron DeSantis is elected president.
Mm-hmm.
I got news for you. All this stuff, there's going to be penalties for it. You could, as the president, basically sign an executive order, penalize big tech, $250,000 a day.
Per instance.
You do that, start coughing up money. Companies, you could take away, what's it called? They're basically protection in the courts.
Yep.
And you could make, the president can do that.
Right.
That could happen like that.
Right. And listen, Joe and I, we don't cry. Okay. Joe and I don't cry and we don't moan. We know that we commented last week that we were being shadow banned. I had no idea. One of our friends that watches us on social media, Barbara, up in Wisconsin, she said, I can't get notifications for you guys. Now, what did Joe and I do that we can get notifications? I could get a notification from a guy who's making a video about cats. I could get notifications about BLM or Antifa when they're beating the crap out of a homosexual, Andy Nago, and nothing happens to them. I could get notifications about that. But Barbara and all you good people out there at the Crusade Channel, and everybody who hears the Frontline with Joe and Joe, on YouTube, you cannot get notifications. The little bell is X'd off. Why is that? What are they afraid of? What are they afraid of? They tell us all the time, Joe Resinello, they're the smartest people in the room. They shouldn't be afraid of a debate. They shouldn't be. They're so sure of themselves, of their worldview, of their leftist worldview. They shouldn't be afraid of debate, but they are. And you want to know? It tells you that they're very weak, and they know it. They're very weak in their positions. They know their positions are easily wrecked in debate. That's why they want to do away with the First Amendment. And you're right. A guy like DeSantis, he's already done it.
He's done it in Florida. And like I said, that could happen. And here's, like I said, you have to know what it is. People just don't think past their hand. So many of these ideas are dangerous. They're just dangerous. The founders were very wise. Like people, the ideas that have been floating around, cancel the filibuster, cancel, what's it called? The idea that states control the voting process. Right. These are bad ideas.
Terrible.
These are bad ideas. The founders knew what they were talking about because absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I'm going to be honest with you. Here's another thing about absolute power. And if you look at it, you've seen this in our own lifetime with people like in Libya. What's his face?
Gaddafi.
We've seen this with Saddam Hussein. We've seen this with Mubarak in Egypt. You have power for a period of time, but when your time is up, it's ugly.
Oh, if
it's
you ever
ugly.
If you ever want to see a couple of brutal videos, I don't recommend it. Okay,
Gaddafi, they dragged him through the street.
When you see, and this guy had control. Okay, he had control. He might not have been as bad as Saddam Hussein, but this guy had total control, and we saw what happened to him.
That's what happens. Right? That's history. So maybe like that's what I've always said when we've talked about this, Joe and I. Like, enjoy your hour.
Oh,
because it's only going to be an hour.
You want to see, if you want to see something that should wait, and I'm talking now to all the young people out there what I would emphasize to you, start opening your eyes and open your ears and start going back against your leftist professors, okay? And stop being brainwashed by them. If you want to see what happens to totalitarians, go look at what happened to Nicholas Ceausescu and his wife. Ceausescu was the communist leader of Romania, okay? And when his power came to an end, and it came to an end in a very bad way. You know how in the movies, Joe Resinello, usually like they line people up against the wall and the guy says, and the guys are there with the guns, and there's one guy, an officer, who says, ready, aim, fire, in whatever language that they're doing. They put Ceausescu and his wife up against the wall. They didn't even wait for the ready, aim, fire. It was ready, blah, 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 and they blew them away. And there's a video, and the camera goes over and looks at them. That's what happens to totalitarians. They don't all die in their bed like Joseph Stalin did, okay? Even though he's probably roasting very uncomfortably in hell right now, along with his buddies Mao and Hitler, okay? But when it ends badly when you try to control people. And you need to get that through your head. People need to speak first and foremost. And if people feel like they can't express their opinion, Joe Resinello, that's when people get angry.
Well, Artie Fleischer, he was Bush's press secretary.
Yeah, Ari Fleischer.
Yep. And I followed him during the election on Twitter. He was putting out, I thought, some really good clips. And I remember what he said when he was talking about the censorship. He said, it's dangerous. He said, because when people have bad ideas, but they're allowed to say them, it goes into the ether and it disappears. But when you suppress the idea and it's talking along the lines of like Romania, and again, please don't misunderstand me. We're not advocating violence. I'm just telling you how history has played out.
That's all.
And that is why, to be honest with you, you talk about the events of January 6th, and they were unfortunate, frankly. It was an unfortunate event. Do you think if they control elections, that will be an isolated event?
No.
It will be worse. That is why you cannot have an election. And I'm speaking historically, where there is any shadow of a doubt.
No.
It's not good. Clarence Thomas spoke out very clearly. He's a Supreme Court justice. Look at his words.
And he's the best Supreme Court justice.
And he spoke out very clearly about that the Supreme Court should have weighed in. And he's right, because you cannot have a country, because then I'm going to be honest with you, those type of events, and it will happen on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
It won't just be on the GOP side.
Right.
It will happen on both sides,
right.
And they will be violent.
Right.
You see, this is short-sighted thinking.
Joe, didn't we learn this? I think I learned, well, back when we went to grammar school, we actually had a civics class. I don't even know if they teach civics anymore. Free speech.
They need to teach people how to be civil.
Yeah, right. Well, that's another thing.
That's
We'll get
need.
into Antifa in a little bit at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on the Crusade Channel. Always on air, always online at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. Make sure you go to the website, hit listen free. We're convinced you're going to want to subscribe to the Crusade Channel. Great, great, great lineup, okay? But people have to understand, this is why we have what's called a civil society. Unfortunately, we have cowards on one side, known as Republicans, and many conservatives. We're going to get into the Chamber of Commerce in a little bit when you want to talk about fake-o conservatives, okay? And then you have the totalitarian left on the other side. This doesn't make for civil society. It doesn't. In America, I don't have to agree with you to be able to go to war with you against real totalitarians like Hitler, like Tojo, okay? And like fighting the Cold War against the communists.
Did Tojo wrestle in the WWE?
No, he didn't. You're thinking of a different Tojo. No, this was the imperial leader of Japan. But I could go to war with you because at least in America, we might have the idea that what we're fighting for is a civil society within which we could disagree. And sometimes, quite frankly, you lose politically. Sometimes we lose politically. But nonetheless, there's an ebb and a flow. It's a dynamic democracy. But underneath it all, it's a civil society. I'll fight for that. But I'm not going to fight and die. All right? And I'm not going to watch kids go out and fight and die for this country if we're not going to protect free speech, freedom of association, and the freedom to exercise my religion. I'm not fighting and dying for this country, nor would I encourage anybody else to do so, because those are the things that we fight for. Am I wrong, Joe Resino?
No, you're spot on. That's why it's the First Amendment, Joe.
Right.
I mean, that's why it's the First Amendment. I mean, again, the wisdom of the founders. And it's so sad. It is so sad. It is so sad.
Well,
and that's the only way I could put it. I'll be honest with you, because why it's sad, it could flip and we could be coming after you in a theater near you soon.
Right.
If an event happened and the political tide turned, and I'm not for that either.
Well,
and that's why it's sad.
What are they going to do? Let's talk about this for a second. Now we're in our second segment here. We're still talking about free speech. Good, because that's why the Frontline when Joe and Joe are here. Joe, let me ask you a question. There's YouTube. There's Facebook. Okay. We're on it. We're on others. What happens if Rumble? Now, I'm not so completely versed in Rumble and some of these other alternative social media sites, even though our producer up in Canada has us on those sites. Okay. What if Rumble turned around and said, all right, well, there's YouTube and they censor speech. We're censoring wokeism, anything woke, transgenderism, gay marriage, anything woke. Okay. We're censoring it all. You're not allowed. You try to create a page, we're taking you down. I'm just thinking this thought hypothetically, and I could already hear them screaming in the street about censorship. You could see that, can't you? Well, if Rumble turned around and did something like that?
Absolutely. But here's the thing. I mean, like I said, it's not healthy. It's not American. And frankly, it's almost like people are, and it's right. I love John's, clip for the show. People are brainwashed. They're brainwashed by the media. One thing that Donald Trump, one thing that he said that I'll always agree with, the media, it's the enemy of the American people. And that's why what's his face on Fox, the quote unquote, what's it called? Fair. He thinks he's the new journalist, Walter Cronkite. What's his face?
Wallace's son.
That's why
Chris
that's
Wallace.
why he hated Trump.
Right.
Because he takes himself very seriously. And frankly, Chris, you're in the tank with all of them.
And you're in the gutter, Chris Wallace. You don't like the fact that Donald Trump knows you're in the gutter, and he was willing to roll up his sleeves and get in the gutter with you and knock you around a little bit by telling the truth. You are the enemy of the American people, and that includes Fox News. That includes Fox News. I don't watch any of it anymore. I will say this every time Joe and I do a show. I will say the same thing over and over again. I get my news by doing research for this show. I pick out articles that Joe and I are going to talk about, and I pick out others to read. So I know everything that's going on, and I haven't turned on Fox or Newsmax or Bannon or any one of them. There's certain people I listen to, like Mike Church at the Crusade Channel and others, okay? But other than that, I get my news from basically print media. I read the news, okay? And I know everything that's going on. Joe Resinello knows everything that's going on. I don't, and here's what bothers Chris Wallace, Joe Resinello. He knows we don't need him. He knows we don't need him. It bothers him that he doesn't have the reputation, at least somewhat, of objectivity that his father had. It bothers him that he's not the most trusted man in America like Walter Cronkite was, okay? Everybody knows, and you're right, Joe Resinello, you're spot on. Everybody knows Trump was exactly right when he said the press is the enemy of the American people, and Wallace hates it because he knows it's true.
Absolutely.
And that's the truth. And that's a discussion that needs to get out there. Why? Because it's Joe and Joe? No, because we say things that other people are not saying, and that more and more people, thank the good Lord, are saying, okay? People like us, people like Mike Church, a lot of people out there, okay, are saying, no, you're not going to stifle us. And we do, Joe Resinello, have some leaders that have some backbone. You mentioned DeSantis, Joe Resinello. I'm going to start saying novenas for this guy every 9 days. I hope he's not going to turn into some of these other rhinos and stab us in the back, because as it is right now, he's my choice in 2024. Right now, that could change.
And somebody also in the chat room mentioned how about Epic Times. Actually, the Crusade channel has a partnership with the Epic Times.
Yes.
It's a good periodical.
Yes.
You should check it out.
Absolutely check it out. And again, that's where we're getting our news from. Screw Fox News. Or what did the girl say to Rocky in Rocky 1? Screw you, creepo.
There it is.
That's what we got to say to Chris Wallace. So anyway, we're going to move on. Joe Ressino, that's a great conversation to have. We want to thank you all again for joining us on the Crusade Channel, always on air, always online at crusadechannel.com. You're at the front line with Joe and Joe, and we are in the breach. Joe, Obama just won't go away.
Power, baby.
It's all about the power. That's what he learned from his Marxist mentors. And for him, it's all about the power. Joe, let's head off. Let's start this conversation.
Well, Mike LaChance in Gateway Pundit tells us that the former president, Barack Obama, said in an interview recently that his former vice president, Joe Biden, was finishing the work he began. I'll be honest with you. I'll stop right there and then I'll go on because this was in the New York Times. The columnist, Ezra Klein, covered it. But I actually can't believe he said that. Because to be honest with you, Joe Biden, we all knew, we said this even before the election, is the wrapping paper for this leftist agenda.
Some terrible wrapping
paper. I mean,
but
it is. Like, you know, Joe Biden basically billed himself as, oh, I'm Scranton Joe,
right,
and I'm a centrist. And you know, Joe Manchin from West Virginia is a centrist. That's as far as a Democrat goes.
I would say, I would go so far to say even like almost center-right Democrat, if that makes any sense.
But my point is, Joe Biden isn't that person. No. And it's as obvious as the day is long. And many people believe that. I mean, and again, you don't have to believe me, actually. Look at what they've put out. And look at who they've nominated for his cabinet and positions of power. And that's what Obama says. And in the interview, again, it was with the New York Times columnist Ezra Klein, Obama went on to say, and I think it'll be an interesting test. 90% of the folks, these are Obama's words, 90% of the folks who were there in my administration, they're continuing to build on the policies we talked about. You know, I found it very interesting when Barack Obama went out of office. Now, here's a guy that grew up in Hawaii. He then went to school in New York. He then went to school in Massachusetts. He then moved to Chicago, met his wife, got married, and had a home in Chicago, and then he became the president. He stayed in Washington. Why? Why is he still there? I found that to be interesting. His main residence is in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. Barack Obama has a huge say behind the scenes. There's no doubt in my mind that he is behind the scenes on many, if not every, nomination and idea.
That's right.
And again, call me a conspiracy theorist. Call me what you will.
Let's say you said that, Joe Ressino, I got to cut you off. Let's say you said that 2 weeks ago, which we've been saying for the last several months. Obama just said it to Ezra Klein in the New York Times.
There you go.
So they'll call us conspiracy nuts. But it always turns out that when what we say is happening actually turns out to happen. They you know, what's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Don't know how to respond? Your boy Obama just said it. He told Ezra Klein, 90% of the people, like that nauseating Jen Psaki, okay? 90% of the people in the Biden administration are leftovers from the Obama administration. What the hell is going on? Obama is pulling the strings. They don't listen to Joe Biden. They got Obama on speed dial. Listen, Biden actually is trying to give us a little resistance on this. Could you do something about it? Don't worry about it. And Obama calls Joe. Joe, listen, you're getting rich, right? You're the president of the United States. Just shut up and sign what I tell you. That's all.
That's it. Joe Biden is just so happy that his butt is warm in the chair.
Right, and they'll name a high school after him in Delaware.
And he wanted that so bad, and frankly, he sold everything, including his soul, sadly, to get it.
Somebody said Obama is a bigger fraud than Bill Clinton. I'll give Bill Clinton this, okay? Because the only reason Bill Clinton hung around on the scene, in my opinion, is because Hillary wanted him to. That's why they moved to Chappaqua, because Hillary wanted to be a senator, and then she wanted to be the president, okay? But Bill Clinton, he was just too busy. Let's face it. We're not going to be crude here. at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. All right. We're not going to be crude. We know what Bill Clinton was doing, flying on certain people's jets and going to certain islands and taking care of his own animal urges.
Look, Clinton just fleeced the world.
Well, he fleeced everybody. Him and his wife are Bonnie and Clyde. But the only reason Clinton was even on the scene was because of Hillary. Okay. I'll give Bill Clinton that. He just wants to go out and party. Okay. He doesn't care. He cemented his legacy, if you want to call it. George Bush went back to Crawford. Again, we're not fans of George Bush, particularly lately, and how he treated Trump supporters, many of those people who voted for him. Okay. Obama's not going away because Obama knows in his heart this is his third term.
But here's the thing, and Obama was not a successful president.
No.
And here's why. Two things. He didn't pass anything. He passed, listen, you tell a president by what you pass, not by what you say. He passed Obamacare, it got torpedoed. 6 out of his 8 years, he did not have the House or the Senate. And his ideas had the worst record in the Supreme Court of any modern president. And most of the things that went into the Supreme Court based upon his ideas got
destroyed.
9081.
We're going to leave it there for a second and take a break. You're at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello, way in the breach on the Crusade Channel. Always on air, always online at crusadechannel.com. The last live radio station standing. Please support Joe and I. Patreon.com/the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Excuse me. And go to the website, crusadechannel.com. Hit listen free. And we're sure you're going to want to subscribe to Mike Church and the Crusade Channel. Stick around. We got a lot more of this conversation on the other side of the break. Welcome back, everyone, to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello, and man, are we in the breach. Let's stay on Obama. Joe Resinello. This guy, if you go and
dude, that was so New Jersey.
Well, that's the way guy. This guy is busting my onions. He's busting our onions. Okay, this guy. If you looked up the Webster's dictionary, okay, picture of arrogance. His image is right there. You got to listen to this nonsense. Now, please swish this around a little bit, okay? And think about how not for nothing, for a Harvard-educated guy, he's fairly delusional. He says in this article from Mike LeChance, he said Obama, in his interview with Ezra Klein at the New York Times, Obama expressed his frustration that former President Donald Trump's administration interrupted his ability to get credit for the strength of the economy. Stop right there. You think Obama's the one who told us that we had to get used to a new normal. Economic growth was not going to be more than 1.5%. Okay. Manufacturing jobs went overseas, and you're not going to wave a magic wand to bring them back. But you know who did? Donald Trump.
The Donald
did it. He didn't interrupt. The economy was not coming back, ex-President Obama. It was not coming back. It was staying the same because that's the way you wanted it. And had Hillary gotten elected, it would have remained the same. There would have been no tax reform, no real tax reform. There would have been no deregulation that spurred the economy. There would have been none of that. So Trump gets credit for what Trump did. And Trump gets credit for undoing what you did, you arrogant person, you. And I was about to use a word that we're not going to use, okay, because a good priest friend of ours told us don't call people names. But Barack Obama is arrogant. And here's the quote that really sticks in my craw, Joe Resinello. He says this, quote, that clouds what I think would have been a more impactful shift in political views towards Democrats as a result of my presidency. Is this guy smoking crack? Dude, like, he thinks that, listen, President Obama, I'm going to break it to you. I said this, Joe Resinello, before. I said this on the show. If Bill Clinton had what, by any objective standard, a successful presidency. He had a good economy and everything else, okay? So let's go by how we traditionally judge presidents, okay? If he was so great, why did George Bush win in 2000? Now, Ronald Reagan was great, and that's why Papa Bush destroyed Michael Dukakis in one of the biggest landslides in presidential in United States history, okay? Because Reagan was really successful. People didn't like Bill Clinton anymore. They were done with him. So you know what they did? They took it out on Al Gore. And you know what they did to you, President Obama? They took it out on you. They elected Donald Trump because they didn't like your policies and they knew Hillary was going to continue your policies. Your policy, Donald Trump didn't shift the political views of the country. You did. You chase people to the other side because the American people don't want to hear that we have to get used to your version of normal. Joe, this guy's arrogant, Joe.
Well, he'll go down just like the Bushes went down, just like the Clintons went down. He'll go down. Here's the thing. Obama is a charismatic ideologue. I've always said that. Bill Clinton was a politician. Barack Obama was a charismatic ideologue. His ideas are not palatable. See, Barack Obama, and he actually advertised it. He wanted to change America, change, hope. Remember, that was their marketing slogan when he ran. I got news for you. What you're selling, America is not interested in. Who is interested in it are the elites, and they have control. Now, let's not pretend that this is a republic, and let's not pretend that this is about the people, because the elites have always ran everything. They just give us a little bit. I mean, let's be real. That's Republicans and Democrats. Let's be real. It's an oligarchy. It's not quite the Soviet Union, but there, I read something in Forbes a while ago. In the Soviet Union, 365 people run the country. In America, it's 365,000 people who run the country. But make no mistake about it, they run the country. And that's the left and the right. This is the power brokers. But Barack Obama does not have ideas that are palatable to the American people. And frankly, that's why Joe Biden is the wrapping paper. The minute that this presidency is over, and frankly, I don't think it will go a second term. I really don't, because they're hitting people in their pocket heavily on gas. There's inflation. And frankly, a lot of this wokeism is bringing people into the political fray that wouldn't have been there before. It's the indifferent people, the moderates, who are fed up.
I'm getting tired of it.
And I got news for you. I read this recently. Joe Manchin is not buying into your We the People Act, or whatever the hell you're calling it, regarding the federalizing of elections. So that means, guys, you're out of luck in 2022. And that means in 2024, you're not going to have an excuse because of COVID. So I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of angry people are going to show up on that day.
And out you go.
And you're gone. So this is, and you can't even pass anything. By the way, these are still Barry Obama's ideas. Joe Biden has not passed a thing. And you have control of the House. It's narrow, but you're controlling it. And you have a 50-50 basic advantage because you have Kamala as the 51st vote, and you still can't pass anything.
Right.
So that says to me that your ideas stink.
That's right.
And these are Obama's ideas. You are going to go away too, Mr. Obama. Get that through your head.
Listen, do yourself a favor, okay? The more the left pushes, now America's been a little bit too liberal on a number of different things in our lifetime for Joe and I, okay? America's not going to the hard left. Now, maybe they don't.
Never.
Maybe, unfortunately,
never.
Something, unless something happens by an act of God. But
it's not in our culture.
Abortion is banned. Okay, we don't know if that's going to happen or not. But America's not buying hard leftism. Get it through your head, ex-President Obama. Okay, we're not buying it, and we're fighting back against those who are stifling. Again, going back to the first segment about free speech, we're fighting back against those who are trying to stifle our free speech. When we talk about the bad ideas of the Democrats, we talk about the bad ideas coming out of the Biden campaign, the Biden Kamala Harris campaign back before the election. We talk about those bad ideas. Americans, they're not buying what you're selling. You are maybe slicker than Slick Willie. Okay, you give a great speech and you're very inspiring. I was actually inspired by Barack Obama. Full disclosure, in 2004, when he gave the speech at the Democrat National Convention, I thought, wow, this guy sounds pretty good. Okay, well, I got proved wrong with that. You're a great speech giver.
Well, he's charismatic.
All right, you're charismatic, but at the end of the day, your ideas are bad. Americans don't want them. You can't stand it, and that's why you're there in Washington, to try to make sure that you could cement the media, big tech, and all the oligarchs that Joe's talking about to try to suppress us. It ain't working, Barry.
And you're not.
It ain't working.
And here's the thing. Those who disagree with me, look at his record. The record, forget about what he said. Forget about that you like him. He didn't pass anything.
Who?
Obama.
Oh, yeah.
And you can't even pass anything now. Manchin is slapping the living daylights out of this regime.
He's the most powerful man in the country.
And so is Sinema in Arizona.
Right.
You can't get anything done. You're passing stuff in the House. They're giving it to Schumer in the Senate. And he's just keeping it on his desk because he knows it's going nowhere.
And you know what he could do with all those pieces of paper that are piling up on his desk. Again, we're not going to be crude here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on the Crusade Channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. Please make sure you follow Joe and I on all of our social media, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you find us. Hit something that helps us. That's all we could ask for. And if you are feeling generous and you want to do a small monthly subscription to us, a little donation, patreon.com/the Frontline with Joe and Joe. At the end of the day, Barack Obama's got to exit the scene. He should be graceful, okay, which I think is not in him, and just bow out. Let Biden implode and realize America's never going to be the communist utopia that you want it to be, President Obama.
Well, what?
Get it through your
He'll
head.
never be, to be honest with you, about. That's why he's got a deal with Netflix, because again, he's brainwashing people through Netflix. I think he has something coming out for youth. I saw something in the news recently.
Really?
Kid you not, about like the either the election process. Don't quote me on it exactly, but it has something to do with like civics, but in the form of almost like a cartoon. So my point is, he knows what he's doing.
He is the cartoon.
I mean, like, but my point is, like, this is all about, what do you think the public schools? Do you know? I'm going to tell you a public school story. A friend of mine, he's a retired principal. I'm not going to say his name.
I like
in New
stories.
Jersey.
I do like
good
stories.
Good friend of mine. I see him. I haven't seen him in a while. He's retired. He was a principal in a grammar school. He's also a principal in a high school. Educator for over 30 years. I have 4 kids. My wife's pregnant with number 5. He says to me, I'm like, hey, Sal, I was with my son. He's like, oh my gosh, your son got so big, blah, blah, blah. This is what he says to me. Your kids aren't in public school, are they? This is an educator in New Jersey.
In the public school system.
This is like, it's sad, but they know what they're doing. They're passing on their wokeism, their frigging LGBT agenda to our children in the school system, and people are getting fed up. And that's why they're going to go bye-bye, bye-bye, because not everybody is tribal. Keep this in mind. My mother, who's also from Newark, New Jersey, who has a PhD in common sense, said this to me. She said, Joseph, the independents decide who the president is. You see, there's a 6 to 7% window who isn't tribal, and always will be a 6 to 7% window who doesn't always just blindly vote for a party. And they're getting fed up.
Right. Well, I will say this, though, Joe, along with a lot of conservative Democrats, I firmly believe, okay, when we look at all the numbers in hindsight, the entire Midwest, traditionally blue, what they call it, Rust Belt, okay? Pennsylvania. Ohio is a red state. Everybody better get it through their head. Ohio, Trump won Ohio by 8 points. Ohio is a red state, okay? Regardless of Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Dayton, okay? Ohio is a red state. Michigan is leaning red. Wisconsin, the birthplace of the progressive movement in America, is leaning red. The fake pollsters before the election had Biden up 17 points in Wisconsin. And even if you look at the result and you accept the result in Wisconsin, it was like a less than 1% or something stupid like that. Okay, the entire Rust Belt, okay, is red. Conservative, I agree with you about independents, Joe Arsenault, but conservative Democrats. Look, Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin's a conservative Democrat. He's standing in the way of this stuff
because he
knows. The Midwest is saying, "Look, you've pushed us way too far." And leaving aside the fact that you know, they knew, they had sense enough in the Midwest to know that Biden was going to cost them their jobs, which he did in the first 100 days with fracking, doing away with fracking and all that. Joe, the country is a red country. Okay, when you look at the counties, when you look at the state, the country leans red. And why? Because they're tired of all this nonsense.
But again, they as they always do, they've overplayed their hand. And frankly, you're seeing, we've covered this on other shows, people are pushing back. They're pushing back in the school boards. They're pushing back. You see, again, like Joe said, you don't just change a culture. And I agree with Joe 100%. America will never be a far left country, ever, ever, from Hawaii to Maine. Because listen, your elites might be that way, but I'm talking about the average guy and gal, married, paying bills. And I'm not talking just about Catholics here, so please don't get me wrong. I'm talking about people who follow the laws. They get up every day, they go to work, they pay their bills, and guess what? They're not for a boy showering with a girl who's 14 in their public high school. Sorry, guys. You can sell it, speak it, spin it, call it whatever you want to call it. It doesn't groove from Hawaii to Maine, and you are going to get blown out, and you're going to get blown out because you push the envelope too far. Not because I say so, because I'm listening to people. They say the best polls are right out your window. I talk to people. You listen to people. You see what's going on. People don't like it, and you're going to get blown out of the water.
Joe, I work in New York City. Now, I know you're in banking. You might run across. I mean, I don't really come across a lot of conservatives. Okay, and in my life, I've been an actor. I've been a server for the last 13 years. Okay, I work in New York City. I've been around a lot of liberals. People I work with, I would describe as sane. I don't agree with them certainly on abortion and other things. Sane left of center people. Not one. Oh, no, there might have been one. All right. This dyed-in-the-wool feminist bartender that I work with. Okay. But outside of her, not one of them was voting for Joe Biden. Not one. This is New York City. Every one of them lives in New York City. Okay. All of them would consider themselves politically liberal, and not one. I had some of the cocktail waitresses come and say, Joe, I'm voting for Trump. One of the girls is from the Bronx. She's like a little Boricua, right? She's like, Joe, I'm voting for Donald Trump, man. I can't stand this Joe Biden. Get out of here with him. Like, you know, but I'm using that anecdotally. But it's New York City. You're running across people who are like, Joe Biden, I ain't voting for Joe Biden. These are people who live in the city.
Because they have ideas, these fantasy ideas like defund the police. I saw something this week, a statistic about cities. The crime spikes. We could talk about New York City in particular, but it's across all the cities. Philly, LA, Portland's off the hook. My point is, your ideas stink. Your ideas stink. And it comes down to, you could speak a good game all you want, but it's like anything in life. You know, money is green and you got to pay the bills, and your ideas stink.
And what I love about the Frontline with Joe and Joe is, like, we don't sit here and say, well, you know, your ideas, you have a logical fallacy going on there. No, your ideas suck. Right? That's the way we fight the left. Your ideas suck. You can't defend them. And I love the way LaChance ends this article about Obama, and then we'll move on. No one voted for Obama in 2020. Why is he playing such a huge role? Well, Joe and I just broke it down for you. We just broke it down for you. This guy, let's pray Joe Rossinello, he gets some dose of humility.
He'll go away.
And exit. You know what? He'll go away if the Republicans, and I mean real Republicans, sweep in 2022, similar to what they did in 1994 with Newt Gingrich and the contract with America. He'll go away because he'll realize he can't get anything done. He'll realize that all Biden could do is pick up the phone and do an executive order, which will get undone soon as Ron DeSantis becomes president. So you're at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. We are in the breach on the Crusade channel, always on air and always online. At crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. Remember, go to crusadechannel.com, hit listen free, gratis, free, and you listen to all of the content from the Crusade channel because we're doing a subscriber push. Joe and I do not receive a dime for that. Just want to let everybody know we do it because we support Crusade channel and everything going on in there. All of the people involved with Crusade, particularly the King Dude, Mike Church. So we would encourage you to do that. And also, if you want to support us financially, you could go to patreon.com/the Frontline with Joe and Joe. And of course, help us out on social media, wherever you find us. Share it with your friends, whatever you could do. So we have about, Joe, we got about a minute. Let's start the next conversation because, Joe, wokeism, as they say, as my mother would say, no, non è buono, non è buono. It's not in Italian. It's not good. Wokeism is not good, meaning wokeism is not good for our national security.
As Joe said, William Kilpatrick of Crisis Magazine writes, wokeism is a threat to national security. Wokeism invites aggression, and the current regime projects about as much strength as a day-old kitten. Sensing this weakness, Hamas recently launched a massive rocket attack in Israel. Almost immediately, other Islamic nations such as Iran, Turkey began to rattle their sabers. Until 4 months ago, the Islamic State seemed to be receding. The Trump administration pushed Iran back on its heels to the point that some observers began to envision that there was going to be an overthrow of the Ayatollahs. At the same time, Trump's administration engineered a series of accords between Israel and other various Arab states. And as Joe said, and we're going to pick this up on the other side, wokeism invites aggression because, to be honest with you, people hate us out there, as in foreign powers, and if they think they think we're weak, they're coming.
Let's leave it there for a second. You're at the Front Line with Joe and Joe, Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. We're having a great conversation. Stick around. We'll talk to you on the other side of the break. We're back at the Front Line with Joe and Joe, Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello, and we're in the breach on the Crusade channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. I thought Kilpatrick, Joe, made a good point. Actually, a pretty frightening point. He said, under the new regime, Joe and I really don't want to call it an administration. It's a regime, as we said in the last segment, run by Barack Obama and 90% of his leftovers. Barry. Under the new regime, however, the situation rapidly changed for the worse. And not only, this is the scary part, Joe, not only in the Middle East, China, Russia. China. Why do you look at me when you say, remember when the reporter said that to Trump? She goes, when you say China, why are you looking at me? Because she's Asian, right? I'm sorry. Look,
dude, it's like a child.
Joe, I feel bad for snowflakes, and I know that we're pretty bombastic at the Front Line with Joe and Joe, but she deserved it. You go and you're a reporter. You want to be a reporter in America? I look at reporters like guys who I didn't necessarily like. Looking back on it, I wasn't alive when they were around. Like so many of the traditional reporters that we know from the 20th century, but they had thick skin. This little snowflake, why are you looking at me?
I'll be honest with you, they shouldn't even have. We've talked about this. I don't want to steal the thunder from this conversation. I don't even know why they have press conferences anymore. I wouldn't do them. DeSantis has the right idea. You're not invited.
Oh, that was
You're
the best.
Gone. I'm not having this conference with you. I'm not talking to you.
Told Fox News that too.
I'll send you a memo. Read it. Have a good day. That's how I would handle it.
I agree.
I'll be honest with you.
But anyway, China, Russia, and North Korea also see our leader's weakness. I hate calling Biden a leader. He's not a leader. And lack of resolve. While U.S. officials concern themselves with making war on global warming, other world powers are developing advanced weapon systems and increasing their capacity for cyber warfare. And we covered this a few weeks ago at the Front Line with Joe and Joe. They're socially engineering the military. Joe, let me ask you this. This is, I think, the conversation we have to have, okay? Do we really think that somehow America is going to survive by being woke with China, North Korea, Russia, Venezuela, and whoever? You think all you little lefty snowflakes out there, do you really think what? You think that Xi Jinping, who really is in the mold of Mao, he's not better than Mao just because he's killed less people. He's a dictator. He's a tyrant. Do you think that he is going to take pity on you, your little Columbia graduate, NYU grad, Harvard grad snowflake? Do you think because you talk nicey nice and you're so open and tolerant, you think Xi Jinping, if he had the opportunity, wouldn't put a bullet in your head? Wake up. Get in the real world. America has enemies, okay? And the more we're woke, Joe Arsenello, the more they're going to take advantage of them.
Well, they're circling. I mean, it's like wolves circling like their prey. And here's another thing. I'll be honest with you. I have a neighbor that's a state trooper. We talk often, and I would not be shocked if we had an attack in this country during this administration. And I'll tell you, because I'll be honest with you, they let their guard down because of this woke nonsense, particularly in New York City. And New York City has been a target. It got not only on 9/11, it happened in the 90s. They attacked the Trade Center 2 times. They succeeded the second. So my point is, this is a joke, but I will say this, Joe. America isn't a joke, because the second something, what I mean by that is this: the second that something happens, all this goes away. Trust me, all of this goes away. This conversation ends. Because here's the deal. If we're in danger, that means Jake Tapper's in danger.
Yeah.
And it all goes away.
I'm glad you said that.
Because
I'm
talking if push comes to shove, like not like us, I'm talking like a big thing. All this goes away. Now you want John McCluskey, the 260-pound cop with the scar in his eyebrow because he fought from 14 to 22 because he was a drunken lunatic. Now you want him to be the cop.
Yeah.
Trust me, it will all go away when all of a sudden, like, whoa, did that just happen in Kansas City? Oh my gosh, did that just happen in Houston?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Is that a bomb?
It's gone.
That Xi Jinping
it's over.
Had set off in San Francisco. Let me tell you something. This is why Joe and I say all the time at the Frontline with Joe and Joe, please, even on a superficial level, please start reading history. Please, okay? Joseph Stalin had the perfect name for the Jake Tappers and the Brian Stelters and all the people in the regime media and all the people in the regime academia, all the people in the regime corporate woke America. He had a name for them. They don't like it, but you know what his name for them was? You're useful idiots.
Someone in New Jersey has a name for it. They call them Stugas.
Stugas. or Stunad. All right? You're Stunad. Again, because I say, who do you think is threatening you, Mr. Snowflake? If it's Brian Stelter, okay? Who do you think is threatening you? A couple of Catholics like us who are for a ban on abortion, who believe that boys can't be girls and girls can't be boys? Okay, who don't want a 17-year-old boy who thinks he's a girl being in the locker room or the shower with a 13-year-old freshman? Who's the real threat to America? Mr. Stelter or Mr. Tapper or Stephanopoulos or Chris Wallace? Who's the real threat to America? Us? We're not looking to put a bullet in your head. We're not taking away your right to free speech. We're not taking away your right to freedom of association, your right to practice your religion. You're probably all atheists anyway, so you don't have a religion, but you have a right, I guess, to do that, I guess. Okay? We're not taking away your rights. China will put a bullet in your head, Mr. Tapper. Xi Jinping will take you out in a second, Mr. Stelter. George Stephanopoulos, you're not going to get a job in the Xi Jinping administration when they take over the United States. You're on the chopping block too. Don't you guys get it? Don't you? America's imperfect. And we can have an argument about whether liberalism, classic liberalism, is something that's worthwhile. We can have that argument, okay? But we're not putting bullets in people's heads. But you give the dictator in North Korea, okay? You give Un the opportunity. You give Xi Jinping, because you're projecting this wokeness and this real, what would you call it, Joe? This weakness that you're projecting overseas. We're all toast. We're all toast. And you know who you're going to want to fight for you? Joe Bob and Jim Bob and all those kids in Texas and Alabama and Mississippi. Okay, you call them racist now, but you'll want them to pick up an M16 and go and fight to protect your cocktail going butt.
There's no question about it. And that's what people forget. Like, listen, I'm not a warmonger, but there are bad people in this world that hate us. Don't think don't think, like Joe said, if they could take advantage of our position or our lifestyle, they would in a minute. In a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And we, like I said, part of the reason why all of this is happening, we're too damn comfortable. Our generation didn't have to go to war. We've lived off the fat of the land. I hear it constantly from the barbershop conversation with my barber to just people. And you look at kids. It's even myself. I didn't get married till I was 43 years old. 43 years old. That was unheard of in my father's generation.
Mm-hmm.
It's an adolescence that's prolonged because of the fat of the land. We are, and that's a big reason why all of this nonsense is going on in America right now. But with that said, people like the Soviet Union, like Putin, like China, like radicalized Islamic states, and they're out there. Listen, it's not politically correct to say that. Crap, when I was involved with the Missionaries of Charity, 4 sisters were frigging executed in Yemen. Executed. One hid in a freezer for her life, and they took a priest, what's it called? Hostage. My wife told me today the Chinese government just arrested a cardinal in the underground Catholic Church and a bunch of priests.
Really?
Raymond Arroyo just covered that on The World Over, who we interviewed on Veritas Catholic Network. You should check out the interview. It's a good one. But my point is, these people play for keeps.
Oh, yeah.
And we are just too damn comfortable. You get these kids, postgraduate kids, went to University of Chicago, making bucks, sitting in some think tank on DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C., drinking $20 drinks. Listen, man, if the crap hits the fan, that's over. That's over. And it affects you too.
That's right. That's right. It will affect you, and you will not be spared. Stop thinking that, let's say, because you want to suck up to, let's say, radical Islamists, okay, who every day of the week and every week of the month and every month of the year, they're plotting a way to try to kill Americans. You're not going to be spared. You need to understand there are evil people in this world, okay? And you need to project strength. That's how you defeat evil. Number one, you call it out for what it is, and then you're ready to lay down your life to defeat it. That's what you have to do. And remember, and another, just anecdotally, I've known people in the military, all right? My wife's nephew fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, okay? My friend Gerard, who I grew up with, joined the Marines when he was 20 years old and went and he fought in Iraq in the first Iraq war, all right? I've known many people. They might watch Frontline with Joe and Joe, and they may agree with us on some things and not agree with us on other things, okay? But I know this. They love America. They think America has become insane, okay? And by the way, my wife's nephew voted for Obama twice. Voted for Bush twice. Voted for Obama twice. All right, and voted for Donald Trump. So he's a sane person, okay? He loves his country, okay? He'll go and fight for this country. You snowflakes better get it through your head. Not everybody's going to agree with you. And by the way, snowflakes, when you try to impose your worldview on everybody, rather than debating, rather than, what would you call it, from a Catholic point of view, rather than preaching, okay, or debating, when you try to get the government to shut down other people's speech, you're no better than the totalitarian. In fact, you are now the totalitarian. You're the thing that you claim to hate. So wrap that around your head when you criticize people like Joe and others out there who disagree with you. Get it through your head. If you were in any of these countries, you wouldn't be able to say the things you say.
Oh, no way.
You think Xi Jinping is going to allow in Chinese schools teachers to tell little boys they can be girls?
No way.
Do you?
No way.
You think Putin's going to allow that?
No way.
Okay. We shouldn't allow it either. Okay. We should absolutely not allow it either. But my point is, you think that you could just say what you want? What do you think? Did you ever look at the history? Did you ever look at Tiananmen Square in the late 1980s and what the Chinese communists did then? Okay. That's what they'll do to you. So before you start hurling epithets and names and attacking people like us in America, remember something. We're not out to silence you. We're not out to control you. You should get it through your head.
Let's talk this one. I think this we talked about it in the intro to the show, the Andy Ngo beating. He was beaten again recently in Portland. This is amazing. As we all know, just to give a little background, Andy Ngo is a journalist. In my view, I think the guy's got a ton of guts.
Let me stop you there. The new media is social media.
Absolutely.
He is a journalist. He covers stories. He goes out into the field. He gathers information. He is a journalist. His journalistic standards are, I would think, surpass those of some of the people that we talk about,
Chris Wallace.
Chris Wallace. His journalistic standards are very, very high. That's why Antifa doesn't like him.
Well, and he's a homosexual. He was beaten, just so people know this, in 2019. We covered that on this show when he was first beaten, and he was just beaten again recently in Portland. This is what he had to say. He said, Antifa wants me dead. Ngo said he ran into the Nines Hotel begging staff to call 911, but they refused to help him.
Shame on them. Shame on them.
The left-wing terrorists surrounded the Nines Hotel, pounding on the hotel doors and windows, trying to break inside when he ran in there, basically running for his life. So this is a guy also, by the way, I didn't know, to be honest, when I saw this, when you sent me this story and I read it, I thought he was still in London because he was in exile.
Right.
He had to leave the country.
Because the tolerant group Antifa was threatening his life.
And here's the thing that's interesting about this. He's gay. He's gay.
Nobody's coming to his defense.
And this is where, if you don't see hypocrisy in that, I'll be honest with you.
You're blind.
Or we can't even have a conversation.
Joe, we say, okay, unabashedly, there is no such thing as gay marriage, okay? And the press, okay, the regime media would make it seem like that's a statement that incites violence against people like Andy Ngo, okay, which is the furthest thing from the truth. So if we say that, they'll say that that's violent speech, that's hate speech, ergo it's violent. I would defy any of you. Show me where in America right now you have someone, a gay man in any occupation, getting the crap beat out of him, okay, by anybody for being gay, okay, anywhere in America, okay, right now. You can't find it. You want to know why? Because it's not happening. The only place it is happening is when Andy Ngo shows up in front of Antifa and they beat the crap out of him. And the press says nothing, and the homosexuals who are out there raising their fists in the air all the time, and we want our rights. You don't care about Andy Ngo's rights, evidently. You don't care about pointing out that your comrades in Antifa beat the crap out of this guy. What's the matter? He's less gay than you, but you can't come to his defense because he's conservative?
Bingo. Bingo.
Right.
That's why.
That is why. And you know, Joe, this is almost like a punchline. Even though this is a sad story. This poor kid got hurt badly twice. But this is a punchline to this. This is what these idiots in the Nines Hotel did. Andy Ngo said, I begged hotel staff to call 911, but they refused and ordered me to wear a mask.
That is almost absurd. It's not almost.
That's
it is
a
absurd.
Saturday Night Live skit.
It is.
Guys running away from Antifa who are beating the crap out of him. He was a homosexual. He's known, by the way. He's not an unknown guy. Or he's got a lot of followers out there on social media. He's a known guy. All right. He's getting the crap beat out of him. He goes into the hotel and they tell him, he's begging it. They refuse to call 911 and they tell him, and put on a mask.
These people are sick.
They're not insane.
They're sick.
I would have all of them arrested. But you know who I would have arrested first?
The mayor.
I know. Well, aside from the mayor, I would have Dan Savage arrested for saying things about Roman Catholics, okay? Untrue things about Roman Catholics. I would have Cory Booker arrested for lying about his classmates when he went to Catholic school here in Bergen County, saying, oh, I saw the way homosexuals were treated in my Catholic school. You detracted from them, Senator Booker. You didn't see homosexuals get beaten up in the Catholic school you went to. You lied about your classmates. And people like Dan Savage, you'll attack people because they're Catholic in particular, by the way. Make no mistake about it. Dan Savage is a lapsed Catholic. He hates Catholics. He hates the Catholic Church, okay? Cory Booker's no different, and people like them. I would have them arrested. You want to know why? Because they would say guys like Joe and I are haters because we believe in traditional marriage and we think sodomy is a sin.
Because we're Catholic.
Because we're haters.
It's just it's your Catholic belief.
But you won't lift a finger to help this guy, Andy Ngo. You will not lift a finger to point out to Antifa, you do realize this guy's a homosexual, right? They won't defend him at all. I tell Dan Savage right to his face, you're a fake. You know why? You know why, Joe Resinello? It all goes to the same thing, okay? Feminists are not interested in women. They're leftists, okay? Radical homosexuals are not interested in homosexuals and the rainbow agenda. They're leftists. Black liberal establishment, they're not interested in civil rights. They're leftists. That's why anytime anyone who's in those groups disagrees with them, is conservative, whether it was Sarah Palin with the feminists, whether it's Andy Ngo with the homosexuals, whether it's Clarence Thomas and Thomas Sowell with the black liberal establishment, those people are not worthy of protection under the law, only if they're on the left. That's the frustrating part, Joe.
And it's true.
And
I'll be honest with you. And that's where, if you're like, it's very frustrating when you talk to someone about something like this and you point out such a truth, they will not accept it.
Of course.
And because, to be honest with you, that ends the conversation, because the hypocrisy is just dripping. It's dripping.
Well, that's why Frontline with Joe and Joe's here. And that's not a joke. I'm not just saying that. That's why we're on the Crusade channel, always on air, always online at crusadechannel.com. That's why we're on social media. We are saying it. I challenge Dan Savage to debate on anything. And the first thing I would point out is what Joe said. You're a hypocrite, Mr. Savage. You're a hypocrite because you wouldn't protect this 100-pound kid who's just trying to cover a violent group, okay, and point out their violence and their lawlessness.
But they don't exist, right, Joe?
Oh, no. Jerry Nadler says
they don't exist.
That's a myth.
That's a myth.
This is a myth.
Really, okay? Jerry?
Shame on you, Dan Savage. Shame on you, Cory Booker. Shame on you, homosexual leftist establishment. Shame on you all, because you don't say one word about Antifa when they beat the crap out of this kid.
And that just happened.
And that just happened twice. And you'll attack guys like Joe and I because we believe in traditional marriage and that sodomy is a mortal sin. But we're the bad guys.
And that's a pervasive idea which has been believed for 2,000 years in the Catholic Church. The Jews believe it, and so do the Muslims.
Right. And by the way, and every other culture. You want to know why? Because it falls under the natural law. Everybody knows that sodomy is unnatural.
So, and that's another conversation. We've had it for another day, but as if like we just made that up. We're the cult of the two Italian guys who eat pizza from New Jersey who made that up. It's actually humorous. It's actually sad. It's sad.
It's sad. And you want to know what? I'm going to offer my rosary tomorrow for Andy Ngo, for his healing, his repentance, okay, and his conversion, okay. And you know, and everything that the Lord wants to give him that he receives, because that dude is a target of some very violent leftists, some very violent.
He's got to get out of that city.
They want him dead.
No, but he's got to leave there.
He said it himself, Joe.
They'll kill him.
He said himself, Antifa wants me dead. If the government, local, state, or federal cannot protect this guy, then I don't know what to tell you.
Another point to make at this, because I know we got to go on the break. After the first beating in 2019, no one's been charged to this day.
That's right. That's right. So as my 81-year-old Italian mother would say, hey, that's the world that we live in. Okay. And it's the truth. That's the world we live in. Well, guess what? We're trying to change that world. And we're pointing out the hypocrisy of all those people that condemn people like us, and all those good people who listen to guys like Frontline with Joe and Joe, listen to Mike Church on the Crusade channel, and Rick Barrett on the Crusade channel, and Brother Andre Marie on the Crusade channel, and the whole lineup down there. That's why we're going to keep saying it. Andy Ngo, we're your friend, my friend. We're your friend. We'll defend your right to do what you're doing, okay, in exposing them, okay? We do not agree with you, Andy, but we're your friend, and we love you, and we pray for you. So having said that, Joe Resinello, this is a story that if you thought I was angry up to this point, okay, everybody thinks that Joe and I get mad at the left, and we do, okay? But these rhinos and these fake-o conservatives, Joe Resinello, enough for nothing, they make my blood boil.
Neil Monroe reports on this story. It's a Chamber of Commerce CEO to Congress. Basically, this is what they had to say. And this is sad, actually.
Oh, wait till you get the facts here. This is – go ahead, Joe.
So, again, Chamber of Commerce CEO to Congress. Import more workers for us. Pay them with citizenship. Let me throw some numbers at you. American workers have been hit hard by the eagerness of construction CEOs to hire low-wage crews of economic immigrants. In March of 2018, Blaine Taylor, he's a whistleblower, said that the construction industry in California once offered, this is in 2018, starting wages at $45 an hour. That was in the late 80s. Fast forward to 2018, nearly 2 decades, basically, of illegal immigrants flooding into California.
And flooding the industry.
He now says that the wages have fallen to $11 an hour. You see, listen, I don't want people, again, this argument gets twisted. Do we have time?
No, let's pick it up on the other side of the break. But you're right. This argument gets twisted, and we're going to untwist it at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello, way. In fact, we're beyond the breach now. We're storming the machine gun nest. Tonight, Joe Resinello, we're going into the machine gun nest, and we're lobbing grenades into the machine gun nest, okay? So we're on the Crusade channel, always on air, always online, at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. Please follow Joe and I on all of our social media, Facebook, YouTube, but find us in other places and support us there if you can. And if you like to support us with a couple bucks, patreon.com/The Frontline with Joe and Joe. Stick around. We'll talk to you on the other side of the break. Welcome back, everyone, to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello. And like I said, we're storming the machine gun nest tonight. But now our sights in this segment, as we ended the last segment talking about the Chamber of Commerce, these guys got to go too. See, if Joe and I were French revolutionary types, and we are not, okay, we're not interested in putting people's heads in guillotines. But if we were, Joe Resinello, these guys qualify.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of times this is twisted. They say you're basically a racist. You don't like brown people. You have something against Latinos. That's the argument when you talk about illegals or migration. Let's get some facts straight. America, I think the last number I read, I could be wrong, 1.4 green cards are given out every year to basically, immigrants to come into this country. That's from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the stat. I could look it up. I can get back to you on it. I'd be interested how that plays in other countries. 1.4 million. Listen, we have a lot in America, and that's how I'm in this country. Listen, 100 years ago, my parents came to America, and they were not. It wasn't America. My grandparents, my grandfather. And my grandmother, actually. This wasn't merit-based. They were uneducated, and they made good Americans, meaning my father served in the army. He loved his country. He worked. He paid his bills. He raised a family. He bought a home. He lived the American dream. So did my grandfather to some extent. So I'm all for people coming in. They make good Americans. In fact, many people who come into this country make better Americans than people who are here for 5 generations. I'm going to be honest with you.
Well, these immigrants that come here, they're not of the snowflake mentality. Okay, no, they come here because they love America. That's one of the reasons why Joe and I took a ride this weekend, and we went to see the people at Veritas Catholic Network, which we would encourage you to please download the app. We have some great interviews on the Veritas Catholic Network, and it's a great, Catholic radio station in Connecticut, Westchester, Northern Long Island. Joe and I were talking about this. Okay, Joe and I look. I'm not interested in merit-based immigration. This is actually one of those multi-layered conversations. Let's talk about that for a second. What is merit-based? The CEO of the Chamber of Commerce says we want merit-based immigration. I don't know what that means.
No, that means I want engineers.
Right. I want engineers,
lawyers,
I want the
and
best
doctors.
of these other countries. But what makes the worst of these other countries? Well, we don't want the poor. Well, like Joe said, that excludes my mom.
And I'm not for that.
Right.
And I'm not for that. No. I know Donald, in fairness, I disagreed with Trump on that. Trump was for merit-based. I'm not for that.
No, because what is merit-based? You have a college education. These people come in here, okay? How about this? The people that call for that, when their grandparents came here from Germany, Ireland, England, Scotland, France, Poland, okay, guess what? They didn't speak the language, or maybe English and Irish did, but those other people, they didn't speak the language. They didn't have any skills, but they came here. You want to know why? Because they kind of like the idea of America. There's your merit-based immigration. How about when they fill out the application, are you going to accept that you're going to have to learn English? Yes. You got like things like that. Somebody answers yes to those questions and says, yeah, I'll learn English. I want to go to work. I want to be an American. Okay. That's as merit-based as I want to go. I don't care if you're a poor dirt farmer like Joe's grandparents or my grandparents. I don't care if you have an education or not. If you want to come here because you want to contribute to the flourishing of America, that's the merit as far as I'm concerned. If you're a lawyer and you think that, let's say, the Chinese Communist Party is A-okay, then stay in your country. I don't care if you're a lawyer. I don't care if you can find a cure for cancer. I don't want you here. I don't want you here. If you think America's a bad place, stay the hell where you are. Don't come here.
Well, they're just coming here anyway. To be honest with you, I work with people like this. They come here. They are merit-based immigrants that come in. Mm-hmm. They make a ton of money. They go back.
Right.
That's how it works.
That's funny. I used to argue sometimes. Some Italian immigrants, Joe Rossinello, believe it or not, used to bother the crap out of me. Okay. And they would bash America, In the meantime, they're here. They're making money. They're breaking their butt, but they're making money hand over fist. I said, if America's so bad, why don't you go back to friggin' sunny Italy? Take the greenbacks that you made here and go back to Castelnuovo di Conza, okay, nella provincia di Salerno, okay, where it's one town and the next town is about 10 miles away. Go back there if sunny Italy is the place where you want to live.
No economy.
And you have no economy and you hate America so much. I used to say, so in fairness, and we're not saying that to brown people, we're not saying that to yellow people. I would tell anybody that. If you look, Joe and I have major problems with our country right now. Okay, major problems that we have state sanctioned and funded baby killing. Okay, we have major problems with that. We don't hate our country. We fight to change our country for the better. We don't hate our country. If you hate America, do me a favor, stay the hell home. But stay the hell home.
But getting back to this whole situation, I wanted to lay the groundwork because I am for immigrants coming here. To be honest with you, they make good Americans. But this is where prudential judgment has to come in. You can't have open borders. Let me break it down in a very, I think like way that everyone could understand. Do you lock your door at night? Wherever you live, whoever's listening to me. Of course you do. Why? Because you're protecting your home. I lock my door. Why? Because my first priority is my family. It's my first priority. I give to people. I give to many grassroots organizations, to be honest with you. However, before I do any of that, I have to take care of my family. Why do the Democrats want unfettered immigration? Ask yourself this. Why? Do you think it's because their hearts are going out to the people south of the border, people in Honduras, Central America, Guatemala, Mexico, Panama? Why? Ask yourself this. This is my response. Because they want their vote. They want their vote.
About power.
It's about power. And it's particularly about Texas. They want to flip Texas. Why do you think that they don't want to have identification? I just re-upped my license in New Jersey. And one of the questions on the back was, are you an illegal immigrant? Now, what that question should have been, it should have been an A and a B. And if you are, we're coming to arrest you. You're not supposed to be here. It's because it's called illegal. We give away 1.4 million green cards a year. Now, why do we do that? Because of what we just laid out right here. In 2018, the hourly wage for construction workers starting is $11 an hour. And in the 80s, it was $45 an hour. Why? Because you flooded the labor market.
Right. And that's where Republicans need to get rebuked.
You flooded the labor market.
Not interested in putting money in your pocket. If I'm a construction worker, you're going to pay me. It's not an $11 an hour job. I got to go up 60 floors and I got to go stand on a girder that I can fall off of. It's not an $11 an hour job. Now, my cousins are in construction. Okay. My cousins pay their workers well. And my cousins pay their workers a lot more than $11 an hour. Okay. But the bottom line is this. Industry-wide, because of the flood of illegal immigrants, okay, the wages have come way down on average, okay, and it shouldn't be that way. Anybody look, I'm getting tired of these Chamber of Commerce. Let me not curse. All right, let me not curse. Okay, let me give you. But I get really upset when rich guys just want to get richer, and when you say, "No, I'm not going into a coal mine for $13 an hour." Don't tell me you can't pay me. Okay, Donald Trump built buildings in New York City paying union wages. Did he not? Donald Trump is a multi-billionaire. Is he not? What? He didn't make money pay all those guys. Working in Trump building for decades since the 80s. Okay.
All union labor.
All union labor. Glazers, pipe fitters, masons,
iron
workers, all of them. Okay. Making money, raising their families, providing with benefits, vacation, all of it. Okay. Don't tell me that you can't make money paying union wages. You can, as long as the unions don't start acting insane. But leaving that aside, automobile industry has always paid union wages, coal mining, steel workers, airline manufacturers, all of them, okay? Don't tell me you can't pay higher wages. And when you attempt to ask this corrupt regime in Washington to let 400,000 people in because you need them, because you're not making enough money, even though you're already rich, sorry. Again, I'm going to go back to the movie Rocky. Screw you, creepo. I don't care about your bottom line. If people are living paycheck to paycheck, I don't care if Apple's at $1,000 a share. I don't care. If we're not making money, then you're going to suffer too.
And also keep this in mind. When you're allowing these type of numbers of immigrants to come in illegally, they're flooding municipalities that don't have the room for their children in the schools. I have a friend that teaches in Union City, New Jersey. It's not like it is in the suburbs where you have 15 kids in a class.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way. Like, it hurts because they don't have the budgets. And that's why I said it's prudential judgment. You have to think this out. This is about power. They want their vote. They let them come in and then they forget about them. This, like, don't, all the rhetoric. And then this week, Miss Harris,
Kamala,
who's in charge of the border, Joe Biden, passes the buck to his very capable VP. She goes, her first foreign visit is to Central America. Well, Miss Harris, I'm going to give you a little bit of wisdom from Jersey City. They're corrupt. You can't deal with these power brokers in these countries. I've traveled to South America. And where that money goes? Right to their pocket.
right.
This is not it. There's corruption in America. There's no checks and balances. You're going to give money to someone from Honduras, some power broker in Honduras.
If there was checks and balances in America, Kamala Harris, you wouldn't be vice president.
Do you
right
know?
now.
I mean, I'll just give you like some insight, my own like experience. I have friends in Brazil. I've worked in Brazil. They don't fund the police departments in Brazil. They don't fund it. Know why? Because they know they're going to steal. So it operates almost like, to be honest with you, Joe is a server at a high-end restaurant. It operates almost on the fact that I'm going to pay you a small hourly wage because I know you're going to get tips. So like if you fund, say, Sao Paulo, which is one of the largest cities in the world, and they have a police force, if you fund the police force properly, the police head is going to steal the money.
Right.
So they don't fund it. So they make like maybe $1,000 a month. I'm just throwing a number, knowing that they're going to ask for bribes. And that's how it works. I'm just telling you, I've been there 3 times and I have Brazilian friends. That is how it works. You're going to go to Central America and give them money thinking that we're going to fix the problem by throwing money out of it. Well, you might as well burn that money.
Don't they do that here? When, let's say, for argument's sake, they give money, let's say, to a state.
They give money to Newark for the school system. Burn the money.
That's
light it on fire.
That's oligarchic action. Oh, we're giving money to the students. No, you're not. You're giving money to the unions. That's what you're doing. You're giving the unions more power and more money. You're not doing anything for the students. Okay? So, and again, in our entire lives, we've had to hear about Nicaragua and all these places, and they're run by oligarchs. America's run by oligarchs. You don't have freedom. That's why we're here at the front line with Joe and Joe. That's why we're here on the Crusade channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com. That's why we're here to tell everybody, you don't live. This is not America. This is an oligarchy. Okay? They've taken your power away, and you need to open your mouth and start taking it back. Okay? That means doing things. They're not civil, but we're civil. But operating within our civil society, because we actually respect the civil society, and take our power back. But we heard it our whole lives. Oh, the Somozas in Nicaragua. What are you, Kamala Harris? You're different than them? You're a grifter. That's what you do. You're nothing but skimming off the top. You and all your friends in California and now in Washington, D.C. You're all grifters, okay? You're all skimming, just like they did. Who are you to criticize them? And you don't care about the people. What is it, a joke? And getting back to this story, Chamber of Commerce. In other words, he makes a good point, Neil Monroe. In other words, where's your loyalty to your fellow Americans? You construction industry bigwigs. Where's
please.
What Neil Monroe,
loyalty to money?
Yeah, but Neil Monroe makes a good point, Joe. I agree with you, Joe. That it is about money, but we need to start shaming them. That's what and you know what? Good old fashioned shaming actually does work. Okay, it actually does. It shame them. Say Neil Monroe calls it. Where's their ethical bond?
Well, they have
with their fellow Americans.
Joe, I'll be honest with you. I personally think there is no shame because they don't care. What you have to do is you have to find them, because you want the wages to go up. What you have to do to these construction companies is basically say, if I find out that you are hiring illegals, I'm going to fine you. And you have inspectors go on to sites.
That's right.
And you basically say, are you union? Are you union labor? No, you're not even legal. Guess what? Who's your boss? Guess what? $10,000 fine for every guy here that you picked up on the corner in Passaic, New Jersey.
Right.
You see, that's how, again, I think this way because I've seen it, and I've seen how people get managed in corporations. They managed you through economic violence. What I just described, you see, when you were a kid, when you had a problem with someone, there was a fight. Corporations don't do that. They put forth violence. It's more violent, actually. It's economic violence. They control your life just by the way I just said that. They don't even get mad. They don't even raise their voice. Mm-hmm. They basically say, well, you have 6 illegals here today, and that's a $60,000 fine today. Here's your bill. And by the way, if you don't pay it by this date, the police are going to come. They're going to pick you up on a warrant. Have a good day. And they get in their car. They don't raise their voice, and they sip their coffee, and they drive away. You see, that's how you manage this. But they allow it because it's about power. And they're masking this stupid voter ID thing and trying to say it's about being a racist. This has nothing to do with black people. You could easily get a license. My license renewal was done by the mail. I did it this week. It cost $24. I don't even have to go to the motor vehicle.
Right.
So what is the problem? The problem is this. I want to turn Texas blue. I'm going to flood the country with votes. And somehow we buy it.
Right.
Why? Because of the media. The media is, and again, getting to our basic cover story, people are brainwashed.
People are brainwashed.
They're brainwashed.
And get it through your head. Look, Joe told a story about a guy he knows, wealthy guy. They were talking about abortion, and the guy turned around to him and he said, abort away. Basically, the attitude is, I don't care. Okay? And it's the same thing. These rhino conservatives, these rhinos and conservatives, these fake-o conservatives in the Chamber of Commerce, they talk about pro-life and, and all that. And, oh, we're for family and blah, blah, blah. And vote for us and support our businesses and blah, blah, blah. They know damn well they flood this market with illegal immigrants. The Democrats are going to get power because that's what they want. And the Republicans are going to, and these rhinos and these Chamber of Commerce types, they're going to make the coin. They're going to make bank. That's all it's about. One side gets power, the other side gets money. That's the way it works.
And also,
you know what? They don't care about any of you. But then if you turn around and you're critical of the free market, or at least our version in America of the free market, because Joe and I are true free marketeers. We believe in markets. We think they work and work well, but that's not what we have. Don't let anybody delude you, okay? Or try to make you believe that we have a real free market system in this country. No, we have crony capitalism. It's true. That phrase came up under Obama. That's what we have. This is crony capitalism. Oh, Biden will turn around. Yeah, we'll let 400,000 illegals in to go into the construction industry so we can keep the wage at $11. Shame on you, Mr. Chamber of Commerce, conservative. Shame on you. Because as far as us being really, truly woke and a lot of people out there, we're coming after you too. You're not going to get away with a lot of the BS that you've gotten away with in the past. And thank God Neil Monroe wrote this article.
And also keep this in mind. It's not just about illegals when you're talking about labor. It's also about when they talk about globalism. You see, Trump put basically tariffs on things. He made things difficult. You see, what happens too is these companies basically, now you're not just competing with people when you're getting a job in America. They're hiring in Poland, Hungary, India, and they don't pay them what they pay us.
Right.
And it's to their advantage.
Look, let's take a quick break. Just great conversation, but let's take a quick break. You're at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello, Way in the Breach on the Crusade Channel. Always on air, always online at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. The chat room is at crusadechannel.com/chat. And please go and listen free at crusadechannel.com. Listen free all week long. Mike Church, Rick Barrett, Brother Andre Marie. Great lineup. We're doing a subscriber push. We firmly believe after listening to the Crusade Channel, you are going to be a subscriber. So we emphasize and we encourage you to do that. And stick around. We have one more segment left. We'll talk to you on the other side of the break. Welcome back, everyone, to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. And this has been a great conversation on the Crusade Channel. Always on air, always online at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. Let me, Joe, if you don't mind, I want to put a finer point. I think Neil Monroe really summed this up very well. And this is what we have to look out for when we're talking about these things, okay? This is what Monroe says. Migration. Now he's talking about what we're talking, trying to import workers and drive down wages. Quote, migration moves money from employees to employers. Well, that's what happens when your wage goes from $42 an hour to $11 an hour. From families to investors. Again, when a man can't go out and earn a living, when the money's only going to the bottom line, who's that benefiting? Investors. But it ain't benefiting families, okay? From young to old, okay, because the young people are working, but, when you're getting paid a lower wage, investors are generally speaking older people. They're reaping the benefit from that. From children to their parents, from home buyers to investors, from technology to stoop labor, from red states to blue states, and from central states to coastal states such as New York. Joe Rossinello, Neil Monroe hits that on the head.
It's sad. Again, the brainwashing continues. People don't pay attention. They don't look deeper, and they buy it.
Yeah, and you know what? We're out here to say, stop buying it, because what they're selling is not something you want.
So let's go. This is a great, I think, article. It was in the Federalist. Rachel Morrison wrote it. This is what she said. Why would Planned Parenthood care about donor disclosure laws when the Health and Human Services Director, Javier Becerra, we all know that, we've covered that on the show time and time again, is handing them millions of taxpayer dollars? I want to just give you some perspective as far as how much we, as in the taxpayers of America, give to Planned Parenthood, which is the abortion carrier of this country. And to put a finer point on what Joe said on the other side of the break, that friend of mine who said abort away, he said, basically, I don't care about abortion. However, I don't want to pay for it.
Right. I did.
And I think that's, it's important to say that because that's an indifferent person. And listen, I disagree with that position. However, a lot of people have that idea. Why should I pay for your abortion? I don't care. Again, that's not my position that you have an abortion or abortion is legal, but I don't want to pay for it. This is under the Trump administration. Okay. So I want to just be fair and tell you how much money goes to Planned Parenthood. And this is according to Planned Parenthood's latest annual report. Obviously, they have to file just like everyone files. Their organization, this was at the end of the fiscal period in 2019, paid This is taxpayer dollars, $618 million to Planned Parenthood. That's
40%
of their total revenue comes from the government. That's your money and my money, and that's under Trump. How much do you think, and I don't have the numbers currently for Becerra, that he's giving them?
Oh, I don't know. My guess
It's probably a lot more than that.
Remember when we were in the second grade in math class, you learned signs, you learned the greater than sign and the less than sign? Okay, we guess that it's greater than $618 million, okay? But the interesting part of this story is that there's a lawsuit going on right now, okay? And that's the crux of it in California, because California wants to force charitable organizations, okay, 501(c)(3) organizations, okay, they want to force them to disclose their donor list. Now, Joe, I can't get into details, okay? Someone very close to me does some work for a religious group.
I was going to say, for the mob?
Not for the mob. No hits going on in the Pasillo household. Someone very close to me does work for a religious order, okay? And under very strict rules, okay? This isn't just going to feed the poor people. This is doing work to help them keep track of their records and things like that. So this person who I'm close with looks at, sees a lot of people's names, recognizable names. And the fact is that at least I assume in New York and New Jersey, those names by law are kept private. California is trying to force the 501(c)(3)s to release people's names
because they want to dox them.
Well, exactly. They want to dox. And what happens to those 501(c)(3)s? Their donors, their contributors go down. Their contributions go down. The point of this story is that, but also that Planned Parenthood doesn't care. Planned Parenthood doesn't care. Why? Go ahead. We don't care if some rich guy in California stops giving to us. We're getting $618 million from Javier Becerra and the federal government.
That's under Trump.
Right, and that was under Trump. So we know it's a greater than sign, okay, on that. But you imagine this. And by the way, just as an aside, there's no way that these organizations should have to give up their donor list. No way. This is going to lose in court. This is a loser, okay? Because if I give
God.
Yeah, because if I give to somebody that look, you want to talk about on a practical level, people might not know him, people might know him. Brandon Ike, okay, was the founder of Mozilla. During the Proposition 8 affair in California on gay marriage, Brandon Ike, who's a faithful Roman Catholic, gave $1,000 for the cause to defeat gay marriage in California. He was doxxed, and he was forced to resign from the company he founded.
We covered that.
Okay, we covered that, which is disgusting. I swear, I wouldn't know what to do. If I founded a company and I'm the CEO, I give money to whoever. If the board of directors fired me, I don't know what I might go postal. I'm not being serious. But my rage would be unbelievable. I founded the company, and because I believe in traditional marriage and I supported the cause, you're going to fire me?
For $1,000.
For $1,000. Screw you, creepo. All right, I have the board of directors fired, which that's another conversation about boards of directors. But my point is, okay, these names should be kept private.
Well, here, the point, I love that you brought that up because they play, you notice this, they play for keeps.
Oh, yeah.
You see, this is the thing that I get frustrated with the Republicans, and that's just why I don't even associate my name next to the Republican name. I'm not a Republican. I'm a Catholic. You know, I've started to do this even at work. You know how they say you're white, you're black, you're Latino, you're blah, 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 blah. And then other, I check other and I put Catholic. That's my new thing. I check Catholic. I'm not white. I'm not black. I'm not Latino. I'm Catholic.
Right.
And I'm not a Republican. I'm Catholic. And notice that they play for keeps. When are people going to wake up? You can't even say that they're at the gate. You can't even say they've kicked the door down. They're in your house.
Right.
They're brainwashing your kids through cartoons, through the public school. They're in your life.
Through the phones.
They're in your life. and we do nothing.
Right.
And yet they continue, just like what Joe said. Why do you think they want to put those donor lists public? They want to dox you and prevent you from funding those organizations.
Right. And Planned Parenthood, who should care about that, they don't care because, again, they're getting hundreds of millions of dollars from the federal government. But if, let's say, for argument's sake, you took a religious order who's getting, let's say, in New York State, and they're getting buku bucks from let's say, a Catholic order, from prominent Catholics, okay? Those people they want their, first of all, as Catholics, we have to say, we don't give money so that we could have our names out there so that we could give glory to ourselves, okay? Because as Jesus said, give silently, give quietly, privately, because your heavenly Father sees what you do. Okay, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but you get the idea.
That's how we do. So
that's what we do.
That's Jersey style. That's Jersey style Bible reading.
That's right, because that's what Jesus said. Yes, he is Jesus Christ. Anyway, yeah. So we don't give so that we can pound our chest and say, oh, I give to this, I give to that, and so these people's names should be kept private for that reason. If you talk about a religious order. But on this level of doxing, no way. You're not going to give these nefarious leftists more ammunition to go after people. If I give to a cause that the left doesn't like, well, screw you.
Say the Sisters of Life in New York City that basically promote life amongst women. They take women in when they have troubled pregnancies, or Good Counsel Homes in New Jersey. They do the same thing.
Right.
They take in poor women who are pregnant and take care of them sometimes for 2 years.
Right. How about Veritas Catholic Network? In other words, they're a 501(c)(3). Okay. They get money. I don't want their donors to be known. No, why would you want?
And what's wrong with giving to those things? You see, that's another thing.
Because they can't dox.
If you want to give to Planned Parenthood, I think you're a fool. But if you want to give to them, have at it. It's your money. You see, I'm an American. You see, that makes me an American, and that makes you anti-American. I don't care because it's your business. I don't think it's a good idea, but just as you don't think it's a good idea for me to give to the Sisters of Life. But I have a right to do it, and so do you.
And here's more importantly, and butt out. And butt out. Doesn't have anything to do with you. Butt out. If you lose on abortion, you lose. Babies don't get killed in the womb, okay? You lose, too bad. As my 81-year-old Italian mother says.
It's too bad.
Okay? So beat it. When you lose politically, that's one thing the left has to learn in this country. You lose sometimes. They haven't lost in a very long time. We had Tim Gordon on our show. This was last year, several months ago, okay? We had Tim Gordon on. He says, they fight for every inch. They fight. We don't. It's our fault. But they fight for every inch. They need to start losing. They need to start losing. Telling you, it's the only day, and it's going to be very gratifying when they do. And they better hope that they lose politically or culturally, because if Jesus Christ comes back, okay, and these people haven't repented, again, Joe and I and all of us, we're going to have to account for our sins. We're going to have to give an account for our life to our Lord and Savior, okay? But these people, I don't want to be on their side of that visit, okay? So they should get it through their heads that well, again, you're talking to people who are so brainwashed and so blind. Sometimes I think that's all we can do is pray for them because they won't listen to anything else. Anyway, you're at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello, and we got a few minutes left, Joe Resinello. Where are we going?
We're going to go to China.
China. Why are you looking at me when you say China? I can't believe that reporter, that woman. I cringe. It was cringeworthy, Joe. It was cringeworthy. It's like I'm watching going, you're a reporter? Like you're crying to the president of the United States because you're Asian, and he's saying that he's referring to a nation in this world that's called China? Go ahead, Joe. Let's go to China.
Penny Starr covers this one. She said the Chinese Communist Party's decision to allow citizens to have up to 3 children recently, despite attempts to fix the damage done by population control programs that have killed hundreds of millions of children. The one-child policy, which allowed each couple only 1 legal child, resulted in the prevention of 400 million births.
Repeat that, Joe.
It resulted in the prevention of 400 million births, according to the Chinese regime. That
means the prevention, not 400 million babies that weren't conceived. That means preventing the birth of 400 million live human beings in the womb. That's Joe. If that's not the focus of evil in the modern world, I don't know what it is.
The 2020 Chinese government census found that China is home to nearly 35 million more men than women. And the country is suffering a dire shortage of women in the childbearing age group. Now, one of the good things about New Jersey, there's many good things about New Jersey, but we have a congressman by the name of Chris Smith, and he is a great congressman by every standard, if you ask me. He's pro-life, and he's outspoken, and he's brave, and he has been there for 4 decades. And basically what he said is, Congress, for years, he's been trying to hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable by these are his words. He says, it's the worst assault on women in history.
That's both the women, the mothers, and the females in the womb that have been killed.
But here's the interesting thing is we could talk about this. We don't have that much time. China basically put their hand into a place they shouldn't have put their hand in. They basically said you could only have one kid.
Right.
And now they're suffering the consequences, right? And a lot of countries also are suffering these consequences. In Europe, it's called the negative birth rate. What does that mean? You don't have enough people to keep your society running. You see, there's a certain amount of people that you need to keep your society running. You
know what bothers me? I'm sorry, Joe, but you know what bothers me? They always focus on people being born, but they never bother to tell you people die. Just like people are born every day, people die every day. Like you said, how does Italy have a negative birth rate? A country that 50 years ago had an average of 8 kids per household. How does that? Go ahead.
Well, secularism. And that's what it comes down to. It's called secular humanism. But I digress. They put their hand into something they shouldn't have. Well, it's happening to an extent here. The only thing that's keeping our heads above water in America are the Latinos. They have children. They do.
And God bless them.
And because we live in an area that, it's a very diverse area. It's also a very populated area. It's actually probably the most populated area in the country where Joe and I live. Latinos have kids. But the average American, they don't have kids anymore. Mm-hmm. They just don't. Even rich people don't have kids.
Right.
They don't have kids.
And just anecdotally, real quick, I work with a lot of Latino guys, okay? And they all have families. They all have kids. Most of them are either food runners or server assistants. Now, in our restaurant, they do well, okay? They do well, all right? But my thing is this. They live in places like Queens. They live in the outer boroughs. They don't pay a ton of rent because they keep their expenses low. Back in the day, like when Joe and I grew up, Joe had a bedroom with his brother, and I had a bedroom with my brother. You didn't have your own bedroom, okay? That's just the way it was. And parents raised their kids in that way. You got hand-me-downs for clothes, okay? You shopped at ShopRite, okay? You looked for bargains. You looked for sales. They make it. They have 4, 5, and 6 kids.
They do.
They make it. And these rich, selfish, rich bastards in America, well, we're going to have 1.5 kids because we want to live our lives. You're a selfish bitch. That's what I say to those women and their weak, feckless husbands. Okay, that's what I say to them. Okay, you're going to plan to have 1 kid. Oh, bully for you. These Latinos are having 5 and 6 kids, and they're making it. And I'll
be honest with you.
I'm sorry for my language. But Joe, that selfish attitude,
that comes
really bothers me.
To be honest with you, that's where, again, what I was saying, China put their hand into something they shouldn't have. Well, we're doing that through contraception and also through selfishness. People don't want to get married. That's what happens when you take God out of marriage and society. Because what did God say? Be fruitful and multiply. What did God also say? I'll provide for you. I'll provide for you. That doesn't mean, we just interviewed on Veritas Catholic Network, Albino Aragno from the Chinaco organization that basically takes care of drug addicts. They say they live on Providence. Well, families that are open to life live on Providence.
And they survive.
And they make it. Well, listen, that doesn't mean you have the nicest shoes. That doesn't mean you have the nicest house. And that doesn't mean you have the nicest car. Now, what it means is you're happy. I was looking at my table today. My mother is moving into my house. I have 3 kids at my table. I was looking at them and they were playing a game and they were all laughing and they were having fun. Do you know something? That's what life is about. Life is about that. And we have missed it. And China put their hand into a place they shouldn't have. And we're doing it to an extent too. Europe is already over the edge. They don't have kids. And you know something? Every tree that basically is planted in a place it shouldn't be planted bears bad fruit. And that's what we're seeing.
What I would describe what you just said this way. And we could see examples of this when it comes to forced abortions. And again, they're realizing it. So now the government went from one kid that they had for decades, Stephen Mosher, who was an atheist, by the way, until he went to China and saw that evil in the 1970s. Stephen Mosher became a Catholic. He converted from atheism to Catholicism, okay? And he writes all about the one-child policy in China. They went from one kid to two kids. Then two kids is enough. Now they're allowing three kids because they have no girls. Okay, so imagine being a poor Chinese kid and a rural boy in a rural part of China. Okay, and there's no chicks around. Okay, who the hell's the kid going to marry? Okay, but it shows you something.
You can't say chicks now, Joe.
You can't. I call them chicks. I don't really care. When I look at my wife's a chick. I say, yeah, my wife. I say that all the time. When I ask people, I say, "Did you see my wife?" And
oh like, my
well,
God.
Who's your wife? Tall black chick, did you catch her? Because my wife's a tall black chick. Hey, look, it's rooted in reality. At least my description of my wife is not detached from reality.
Oh my God!
But my point is this: Joe says, "Put your hand in the cookie jar." Okay, this is what we have to learn in America. When Joe said, plant a tree. God sets everything in motion. Okay, so when you look at how nature is supposed to go, okay. You don't kill babies in the womb. You don't tell boys they could be girls.
You don't contracept.
You don't contracept. Okay. Because of God's providence, things go well. Not perfectly because we live in a fallen world.
And we're
fallen. But as good as it can get in this world, when you follow the natural law, you will bear good fruit. Here's the problem. The same thing that's happening in China that you're seeing, and now they're scrambling to get girls, okay, because they have no girls because they killed them all.
By the way, they're going to take the girls from North Korea. That's me and my wife were talking about. That's exactly.
They'll probably make a deal with
no
Kim,
question.
With Kim.
When I read this, I said that to myself.
But America is going to bear that same kind of bad fruit if we keep encouraging the type of unnatural activity that we're doing here. What am I talking about? Telling boys they could be girls and vice versa. Abortion here. Okay. At least you could say in China, many of those women want to have or did want to have more than one child. That was state imposed. By the way, I mentioned Dan Savage earlier, just as a little aside, because it ties into this story. Dan Savage, the homosexual activist, also made the statement that he's not pro-choice. He wants to impose a 30-year ban on childbearing in America. He said that.
Are you serious?
Yeah, a 30-year ban that a woman has to be forced to have an abortion because he's, aside from being a homosexual nut, he's also a population control nut.
That's almost, I can't even, that's absurd.
Right, because even the Chinese allowed one. But even so, when you mess with God's plan, you're in for a really, really bad outcome. Okay, a really bad one. And in America, we're doing the same thing. What makes it worse, like I said, though, is we do abortions in America are voluntary. In China, they're forced. Here, they're voluntary. Women call themselves mothers, and they voluntarily go out and kill their babies. Okay, when you do things like that, you better be prepared for some pretty bad crap that's going to come down the road. You don't. The old saying was, "You don't mess with Mother Nature." Well, Mother Nature doesn't exist. Mother Nature is a fairy tale. God does exist. Okay?
And the natural law is written on your heart.
Written on your heart. And when you mess with the natural law, whether it's as an individual or as a government, you're in for some pretty bad times. That's the truth. Joe, any final thoughts?
No, it was a good show. To be honest with you, it was good conversations. I mean, and these are real conversations. To be honest with you, like I said, we're just normal guys just telling it like it is. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of people out there are thinking exactly what we're saying. We got to start saying it, and we have to start saying it loud.
That's right. That's right. And we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep shouting it from the rooftops. The truth cannot be suppressed. The truth cannot be suppressed at all. Okay. The truth will always win out because the truth and our blessed Lord Jesus Christ are synonymous. He said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Having said that, we want to thank you all for joining us at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Ressinello, Fabulous, fabulous conversation on the Crusade channel. Always on air, always online at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. Remember, please, on the crusadechannel.com, listen free, go to their website, and please think about subscribing to Crusade Channel. We know a couple of you already have, and we thank you for it. All right. And we real subscriber push here. It's a great, great, great resource. Great, great channel. Follow Joe and I on all of our social media and help us out wherever you can by a click here and a click there. It all helps. And if you want to throw in a couple bucks, patreon.com/the Frontline with Joe and Joe. You could put in a couple bucks every month and you keep us going. We're really appreciative of that. And please, of course, keep us in your prayers. And finally, Veritas Catholic Network. Joe and I have a Sunday afternoon, 5 o'clock interview show on there. Please download the app. Another lot of great content on there. So one more time, we thank you. We love you all. And remember, until next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.